Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Traders, how are we doing
I'll wake
today?
up.
We are going to be covering ticker symbol NIO, baby, standing for Neo. But before we jump into that, I wanted to cover the meat and potatoes on the bone, going over the U.S. and Iran agreed to a 2-week ceasefire, completely reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Now, when you look at what that's doing to oil, that is an insane dump on oil, which bodes well for the overall stock market. So that's what we're covering today. We're going to be covering IWM as well as NEO and what the implications is going to be from this ceasefire for 2 weeks. And also what I look to see on the macro. I want to clarify that a little bit for you guys because you guys were very, very bullish, very excited. Got 130 likes in the last video. So make sure to stay until the end of the video because that's where I'll give you the meat and the potatoes. And slap the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get straight into it, traders. IWM seeing a massive move up of 3.42% overnight trading. And you're seeing a lot of risk on assets spill over to the upside, right? Mooning overnight, Ethereum up 6.5%, and other stocks, HYMC up 782, just to name a few. But what I'm watching on here on IWM is the consolidation after the move, right? You're getting a beautiful cup-like structure from this dump of this triangle, and you've actually achieved fully your profit target on that. You did pretty easily, right, on this first dump. But what you did was you created a triple bottom, making this beautiful cup-like structure, and now you're seeing a moonshot, right, above the 4-hour 200. And what gets me bullish is you're going to get a 4-hour golden cross here shortly if you can consolidate at these levels, which I believe you will, right, seeing as though the news catalyst is very, very positive. On the daily time frame for IWM, it also gets very bullish here because you can see the ramp up in volume as well as how this thing is pinwheeled between the 9-day EMA and the 50. Last time you had this happen, traders, not only, right, did you see this thing absolutely rally to the upside like crazy, but you saw a bullish hammer stick candle. What are you seeing right now, right? You're seeing a bullish hammer stick candle as you break the neckline of this resistance trend. That is bullish. So in short words, guys, I think we're coming back up here to fill the gap, currently sitting at 269.35. But what's the worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario is you fail this breakout and you go back to test the 200-day EMA. That's a pretty good worst case, right? So just looking at this on the daily looks fire, looks fuego, and it gets me excited for what's to come on Neo. Now, on the weekly time frame, you did dip back. You made a beautiful hammer candle on the weekly as well. Low volume, which I don't love, but you do have the MACD beginning to ease the downside pressure, and momentum is swinging back into the bull's favor. Very, very good sign here on the weekly. On the monthly, you could see the crazy volume candle as retail capitulates out of the stock market at these levels. Higher volume, for perspective, than COVID during this COVID crash. Let that sink in, right? That is the amount of fear and uncertainty happening during this macro retest of this neckline. And that gets me bullish. Genuinely gets me bullish on the long-term perspective of IWM. All right, Nio Stock, what you've been waiting for, right? You do have an up trading overnight candle of 2.77%, bouncing off of the 4-hour 50-day EMA. Now, what's bullish here is actually you are clearing the highs of this left shoulder. What I'm worried about on this formation, right, is this shoulder head, shoulder-like formation. If that's the case, traders, don't be surprised to see us retest 560. 560 is the most critical level of support to hold for this thing to eventually reach your macro target of that 771 before crossing that and breaking the macro structure that we have drawn up on this stock. On the daily time frame, you came back to retest the 9-day EMA, which is a bullish sign of bullish continuation, right? Look at the wick that happened. Even though you closed with a bearish candlestick pattern, a hanging man candlestick. Just give you some reference, hanging man candlestick. Typically a bearish reversal signal. That's a good example, right? Hanging man candlestick. But truth be told, right, that is bearish when it is at the top of the formation. Now, where are you currently? You are on a swing down with lowering red volume, retesting the 9-day EMA. In my opinion, guys, this is a bullish candlestick to see because of the wick you've had off of a 9-day EMA. That is bullish to me. Decreasing volume over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days as you see this breakout now consolidate. And a little bit of clarity here for you guys on the weekly chart for Nio is you can see typically after you see these big legs up, right, Nio shoots up 20, 30, 40% of the week, right? Just like this. It typically consolidates for about 2 weeks before finding higher upside. You're now seeing that happen, right? You saw 1, 2, 3 legs of upside and then 1, 2, 3 consolidation. One huge run up, 31%, and then 1, 2, 3 consolidation. Huge run up, 1, 2, and then you kind of just FOMO to the top there, rejected 771. What I'm watching here for Nio is don't be surprised to see this thing kind of just chop, right? Don't get aggravated because that is the trend here is even recently you saw a big leg up, 22.59%, and then 1, 2 candles going down on lowering volume, right? That's the big key here. We want to highlight the volume on this consolidation because going down on lowering volume is not a bad thing. That is oftentimes building your staircase to heaven, right? And so what we're watching here is this cup-like formation that eventually, right, you're going to get one of these. You're going to copy paste this freaking candlestick, hopefully, right? Let's say middle of April, and you're going to go test a 25% weekly candle, most likely, into 771. In my opinion, not financial advice, that is what is likely here on Nio Stock. And so when we zoom out, right, this is where it gets exciting. On the monthly time frame, traders, look at your previous run-up, okay? This is the meat and the potatoes, right? Look at your previous run-up on Nio Stock. You had an inverted head and shoulders pattern, guys. So historically, this pattern has been significantly bullish on Nio Stock, and this has been your bottoming formation before sending you higher. While right, we've done the comparison while IWM makes its all-time highs. What is Nio doing, right? You have your shoulder, head, shoulder, and you're practically in the process of completing your right shoulder before this move, right? And so you could say you're in April of 2020, and I wouldn't call you crazy because of the structure, because of the volume, and the setup, traders. So that all gets me super jacked, super excited for you guys to start making money and for retail to win again, right? You get into the quarterly MACD. I know we cover this every single time, but it gets me jacked. It gets me excited. You have a quarter away, right? August, you're most likely to flip this green for the first time since 2020 as well when you saw this rocket ship of a couple quarterly candles launch off. But to circle it back in, right? I want to really cover on what's happening today. You saw a green candle in the overnight trading. So what I'm anticipating is you're probably going to gap up, probably somewhere between 650 and 660. 650 to 660. If you don't, it is likely if you don't, right? Let's say you fail to hold the 9-day EMA. Well, then you're probably going for a retest to 560 because like we said, traders, 560 was your macro neckline of your first inverted head and shoulders. That is why it is so pivotal here that you are retesting that previous neckline before supporting the stock higher. And so that's what I'm watching for on Nio Stock. It is absolutely a sexy chart. I love to cover this stock because the community is amazing. You guys smash the like button like nobody else. And I do anticipate this thing to see better days in the future. So watch for the gap fill tomorrow of 622. You're already trading above it in overnight trading. And I think that might be it. Yeah, I think that's it, traders. God bless each and every single one of you guys. I love you all. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and it would mean a lot to me if you hit the like button as well. Help the algorithm push this video and get the information out there, right? Nio is back. IWM is back, and we are bulls until the end, brother. That's all I got. Ciao.